Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Good evening. We're going to kick off. Great to hear the chatter, but we have a busy night ahead of us with information here and then up in the SLP for the expo and tertiary providers. So we will kick off. Thank you very much for being here this evening to our Year 10 moving into Year 11 curriculum information evening, and that's Year 11 for next year, 2024. We acknowledge that our Creator God first gave these lands to the Kumberi people of the Yugambeh language region. We respectfully acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting tonight, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging as they hold the memories, traditions, culture and hopes of our Indigenous people. Excuse me tonight while I read off this document. It's really important to us that we get our information tonight out to you as clearly and concisely as possible, so I am going to be reading. There's a lot of important information for you to receive tonight, and it will cover the senior years phase of learning in Queensland. Tonight we're going to cover these four things: the exit qualification, which is the Queensland Certificate of Education; the elements relating to the structure and curriculum for students in years 11 and 12, the AARA exit score for those wishing to move to tertiary pathways post-high school and how that process occurs, and the key differences between Year 10, Year 11 and 12. Planning for Years 11 and 12 is an important step for students and their families. It's important that families discuss the different options available and make informed decisions. Our presentation will give you more information about the different pathways for senior students, and you should take advantage of the opportunity to discuss our subject offerings with our heads of learning in the Senior Learning Precinct tonight after this presentation. Our mission is to work with you to plan a senior learning pathway that is right for you. For your reference, this session is being recorded and will be available on the subject selection page of My Unity next week. Tonight you will hear from our leaders who specialise in the senior phase of learning: Head of Career, Mr. Tom Cullen; Acting Head of QCAA Assessment and Reporting, Mr. Caleb Mackay; and our Head of Teaching and Learning, Mrs. Ellie Wood, who I now invite to the stage to commence the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us tonight. The most important part of the senior phase of learning is our Queensland Certificate of Education, or the QCE, which is what I'll refer to it from this point forward. This is Queensland's Senior Schooling Certificate, which is internationally recognised and provides evidence of senior schooling achievements. The QCE allows students to choose from a wide range of learning options to suit their interests and career goals. The QCE is for all students, not just those wishing to go to university. It is different from an AARA, which is a tertiary ranking score, which we'll discuss later. At Trinity, we work with students and their families to ensure that the pathway taken to obtain a QCE meets both the requirements of the certificate and the needs and interests of the student. To receive a QCE, students must accumulate 20 credits from a set pattern. They must achieve the set standard and meet the minimum literacy and numeracy requirements. It's an important and very strict requirement from QCAA that all of these areas be carefully planned and considered as a part of your preparation for senior education. To receive a QCE, you must accrue 20 credits from a range of learning options, including subjects that come from the suite of QCAA syllabuses, certificate and diploma courses, and other recognised studies. Of the 20 credits to receive a QCE, 12 of those have to come from courses. Generally, for students, this requirement of the QCE is very easily achieved. In summary, students must complete all 4 units of 3 subjects from their core subject offerings, which can be made up of the subject types on the slide behind me. This is something that students need to be mindful of if you are thinking about subject changes once your course commences. And it's particularly relevant for those who might want multiple subject changes, which is why we ask you to have a really good think about the subjects that you're choosing at this point so that you're not chopping and changing along the way. Students must make sure that they meet the requirements of 12 credits from their core points. So essentially a credit is awarded to a student once they achieve a satisfactory standard for a unit of work. There are 4 units in most subjects. So the remaining 8 credits can come from other subjects that qualify as core subjects that have been studied all the way through or part thereof. So it's just those 3 subjects that have to be studied all the way through to satisfy the core component of the QCE. If there were subject changes along the way, for example, a student changed from drama to modern history, they did 1 unit of drama and then they picked up modern history instead, they would get those 3 credits from modern history. It wouldn't classify as that core component of the 12, but would still add credits to the 20 that they're trying to accumulate. Additionally, those 8 credits can come from another range of subject types. So there's preparatory courses, which are the short course subjects, and any Certificate 1 course would be in that classification. And there are complementary courses as well. So our most popular complementary course at Trinity is our Diploma of Business, which attracts 8 credit points, pardon me, but it is a complementary course. So there are 3 categories of subjects that you are able to choose from. Complementary subjects also include other certificate courses or even university courses if you are looking for a different kind of pathway. So to accrue QCE credits, students must have satisfactory completion or higher for each unit or relevant competency of vocational studies. So obviously our encouragement and expectation is that our students do their best, but from a QCE point of view, the student only needs to achieve a satisfactory standard to accrue the credit. We ask our students to aim for their best, and their best comes from a rigorous approach in class, homework and study, and a good revision schedule. The college does have an academic monitoring process as part of our regular processes, and that ramps up for year 11 and 12 students, where we monitor those students very carefully to make sure that they're tracking along to meet the needs of their QCE and doing their best. Students who are in need of that are allocated an academic mentor to work with them, to work with their goals and make sure that they're tracking along. But every student in year 11 and 12 is monitored by Tom and myself, and we make sure that we're on track with those students. There's also a literacy and numeracy component of the QCE. Most students will achieve this through successful completion of either Unit 1 or 2, or Units 3 and 4 as a pair from a general or essential English or mathematics subject. So at Trinity, we require you to take an English subject, we require you to take a maths subject. That will, if you pass 1 unit of that, that will satisfy your literacy and your numeracy component of the QCE. In extenuating circumstances, which happens very, very rarely, if at all, there is another safeguard that we can use to get students through, which is a literacy and a numeracy short course that will give students 1 QCE point and satisfy their literacy and their numeracy component. This rarely happens though. So one of the benefits for each student is that despite the requirements identified earlier, the pathway to achieving a QCE is extremely flexible. There are many pathways to completion, which is why students and families should consider the options and desired outcomes of a course of study. It's important that you understand that there is a difference between a QCE and an AARA, which is the University Entrance Ranking. Not every student will take an AARA pathway, and that is very much okay with us. Every student's pathway should be designed around their personal post-schooling goals. And as I said in my last session, it is okay if you don't know what your post-schooling goal is. Definitely okay, we will work with you along the way. So our structure, our 2024 curriculum structure is going to look a little bit different to how it currently looks for our senior students. So after seeking feedback from students, parents and teachers, we're excited to be launching a new curriculum structure that puts improved learning outcomes and well-being at the centre of a 2-year course from 2024. We're reducing the number of subjects that we require our students to study, meaning that a Year 11 student will select 6 subjects in total, accruing a minimum of 24 QCE credits with successful completion of the courses selected. There will be time scheduled into the fortnight dedicated to career education, personal development and service learning. Additionally, each of our Year 11 students will receive 3 lessons per fortnight of study lessons. To increase flexibility within the timetable, where a study session occurs at the start or the end of the day, so period 1 or period 5, students can choose to be on campus for supervised study, to work with teachers that are available during the time, or with parent permission, they can study at home or off campus. This means that where they have a period 1 study session, students may choose to commence their school day at 9:40 for pastoral care, assembly or chapel. And where they have a study lesson in period 5, they may choose to finish their day at 2:15 p.m. Students with parent permission to be off campus may choose to take some study lessons on campus at different times of the year or different times of the week. There are, of course, conditions to this, and this is this flexible aspect of our curriculum structure, and these will be communicated to you via AARA in January, where we seek your parent permission for that. A parent can give permission for their student to be off campus at any point across the 2 years. So if you're not comfortable with giving parent permission in January at the start of Year 11, you can give that permission later in the year or even at the start of Year 12. It is in the hands of parents to make that decision of what, or families, the parents and the students, to make the decision of what is best for you and your circumstances. You need to be very well aware that accessing off-campus study, as I just said, is completely optional, and that there will always be supervised study sessions on campus for students to attend. With this kind of curriculum structure, it's our intention to help students manage the increased demands of increase the demands of senior learning at Trinity. So we've recently just talked about the types of subjects that make up the course load of 6 subjects for a Year 11 student in 2024 and a Year 12 student in 2025. All of our students will continue studying Christian Studies, which is otherwise known as Religion and Ethics, and this is a course you have already commenced. So Year 10 Christian Studies is already a QCAA applied subject, which you have commenced. This subject, and I'm sure it actually comes later in the script, but this subject gives you 4 QCE credits if you pass every unit. Students must select from 1 English and 1 mathematics option listed on this slide, or talk to our heads of learning later about those options, and then you select an additional 3 subjects from those offerings. There may be an opportunity to explore other subject offerings outside of what we offer internally at the college. To explore this, please discuss with our Head of Careers, Mr. Tom Cullen, who'll be available tonight and throughout the subject selection process. If you are unsure of which English or mathematics option to select, our Heads of Learning can assist with that tonight. So of the 6 subjects that students will select, there are different subject types. These include a range of general and applied subjects and vet and other options. There are many factors that go into deciding what subjects and syllabus types are best suited for student pathways. This will form an important part of the set plan meeting with the academic mentor on Wednesday or Thursday evening next week. And it's probably a good part in the script for me to plug the bookings for those set plans. We're very low on bookings at the moment, and we encourage you to get onto our parent portal and book a set plan meeting for your family to discuss their senior learning pathway. It is a requirement, and we will be chasing you for that booking, so please help us out by getting on and making a booking. Those meetings can occur online via Teams, or you can come into the college and speak with us face-to-face Wednesday or Thursday evening next week from 4 till 8, is that correct? 4 p.m. till 8 o'clock. There may be other options beyond those offered at the college, as I just said before, that fit a desired senior learning pathway. These can be explored on Wednesday and Thursday night. So let's take a look at general subjects first. These subjects prepare students for further education or work. Each subject will contribute 4 QCE credits if the course is studied all the way through and completed successfully. General subjects contribute towards an AARA if an AARA is your pathway. So in the main, our general syllabus subjects will follow the pattern shown here. However, there are some exceptions. So to interpret what you're seeing there, that's showing you when those units of work fall across the 2-year course. Noting that our Unit 3, which is typically known as the start of Year 12, we commence that in Term 4 of Year 11, so that our students have started Unit 3 work at the commencement of Term 4 in Year 11. This gives us maximum opportunity to prepare students for their external exams once that comes around towards Term 3 and 4 of Year 12. In Units 1 and 2, students complete between 2 and 4 formative assessment items. This is an opportunity for students to develop the skills and thinking they need in the following 2 units and receive feedback from their teachers. As Units 1 and 2 conclude, the only result that we communicate to QCAA for your QCE is satisfactory or unsatisfactory. In Units 3 and 4, so quite different, students will complete 3 internal assessments. These are summative. They're written by Trinity staff and they're endorsed by QCAA. So QCAA checks that our assessment makes sense, that it's doable, and that students will be able to achieve the top range of results if that's where their skill set is. The type of task for each of these pieces of assessment is different across subjects, and the timing that assignments are due and exams are administered also varies across subjects. The weighting of each piece of assessment is different between subjects, and an internal assessment can range anywhere from 10 to 30% of the subject's overall result. Internal assessments are marked by Trinity staff using an instrument-specific marking guide provided by QCAA that's the same for all students across the state. Students are provided with a provisional result in numbers out of the total marks available. Results are then externally validated and confirmed by QCAA through a process that involves random sampling of student work and reviewed by a panel of external experts. Each of the different syllabuses and learning options have a different structure and way of assessing student learning. You should discuss these with our heads of learning in the Senior Learning Precinct tonight. External exams, which occur over a 3-week period in November of the Year 12 year, represent either 25 or 50% of the total course, of the total Year 12 course, pardon me. While these tasks are unseen by both students and teachers, there are many resources available from QCAA and other publishers that very well prepare our students to work in unseen and unfamiliar environments. In Year 11, the results that are reported to QCAA are satisfactory or unsatisfactory. Teachers make a judgment based on a maximum of 2 assessment items per unit. In this example for English, you will see that in Year 11, Unit 1, Tasks 1 and 2 are equally weighted to determine a satisfactory or an unsatisfactory result for the unit for submission to QCAA. They are again equally weighted in Unit 2 to determine completion. Now, what we submit to QCAA is satisfactory or unsatisfactory. You still receive a report that says what that student received out of 25 or 30 or 10 or 15, and an indication of where that student is achieving on an A to E scale. So when I'm talking about satisfactory or unsatisfactory, that is the information that we communicate to QCAA about your QCE. You still receive a report card that gives you an indication of what you've achieved for each of those tasks. In Year 12, the 4 assessment pieces combine to make a score out of 100. In English, the 4 tasks are equally weighted, with that external exam being 25%. In this example, all tasks for Units 1 to 4 are not equally weighted. So in Unit 1, task is 40% and task 2 is 60%. And this pattern is repeated again for Unit 2. In Units 3 and 4, the assessment items combine to make a total out of 100, like the previous example. However, you'll notice that the external exam for mathematical methods and every other mathematics and science course is 50% of the course. So our internal assessment equals 50%, and then that external exam is 50%, which assesses content from Units 3 and 4. Biology is another similar example to the previous scenario, where the assessment for all units is not equally weighted. Biology, along with the science subjects in the general syllabus range, has a 50% external exam to conclude Units 3 and 4, which assesses content and skills from both of those units. We also, towards the end of the Year 11 year, you will have an opportunity to select from 2 extension subjects should you choose to. So we currently offer Music Extension and English and Literature Extension. Students who select an extension subject generally drop one of their existing subjects to take up that extension subject. Decisions about selecting an extension subject as a part of the senior course occur towards the end of Term 3 of Year 11. You don't need to make a decision about an extension course at this point. You're welcome to ask questions, however, of the heads of learning if you think it might be an option for you later on. So along with general subjects, our QCAA also provide a suite of applied subjects for students who might be seeking a different option to those general syllabuses. So applied subjects consist of a combination of different types of internal assessment, which is assessment devised and set by the staff at the college. One applied subject may contribute towards an AARA in conjunction with general subjects. In Year 12, students taking Essential English and Essential Mathematics complete 3 internal assessment items and 1 common internal assessment item set by the QCAA. Currently, both of those Essential English and Essential Mathematics tasks are completed in Term 2 of Year 12. You can see on the slide there, these are the applied subjects that we offer: Essential English, Essential Maths, Drama in Practice, Sports and Recreation, and Tourism, and I think this year we are also offering Arts in Practice. So in Year 11 and 12, all students will continue to stay in Christian Studies, which is Religion and Ethics applied subject. This course is completed over 3 years. You've already commenced that, as I said earlier. There's also that added benefit of successful completion of Religion and Ethics gives you 4 QCE credits and can be used in the calculation of your AARA if you need it to. So let's take a closer look at how applied subjects are assessed. All assessment in Essential English is equally weighted. Units 3 and 4 are assessed as a pair to arrive at an overall result for the year. Essential and applied subjects are assessed on an A to E scale, whereas our general subjects are assessed using numbers out of. Similar to the previous example, Sport and Recreation has equally weighted assessment. Unlike the essential syllabuses, Sport and Recreation does not have a task issued by QCAA, and all 4 assessments are set and assessed by Trinity staff. In addition to our general and applied subjects, we also offer a range of VET courses for students to access. It's another subject option that is well worth considering. So VET learning options consist of a variety of different competency-based assessments which focus on practical skills and aim to prepare students for further education, work and training. Certificate courses span across core and complementary subject offering categories, with all certificates and diploma courses attracting QCE credits. VET courses, it's worth knowing, have additional fees which have been outlined in the curriculum handbooks published last term. In many cases, but not all, students can access VETIS funding to offset the fee. Students can only access VETIS funding once and will need to pay full fees for any VET course once the funding has been used. In 2024, the Diploma of Business will be an additional subject offering which will run offline, completed after school with a trained assessor. So the diploma will act as an extra subject on top of the 6 subjects selected. A wide range of additional studies can also contribute to credits points for the QCE studies. A full list can be found on the QCAA website, but it's important to discuss these options with your set plan teacher mentor on Wednesday or Thursday next week, or alternatively with our head of careers, Mr. Tom Cullen. So for example, if you were doing any external dance or music examinations, that attracts QCE credits. And there are some other options there that our students may want to consider if that suits their pathway. So as you've seen, there's many options for students to consider, and I know it's a lot of information to take in. The following scenarios aim to show you pathways that demonstrate different ways to obtain a QCE. In example 1, a student enrolls in 5 general subjects and 1 applied subject over 4 semesters. All subjects completed are core subjects. This student will meet the set amount and the set standard with more than 20 credits if they achieve a satisfactory or higher result for Units 1 and 2 and Units 3 as a pair. If the student successfully completes at least 3 of these subjects all the way through Year 11 and 12, they'll meet the set pattern of 12 credit points from core subjects. The literacy and numeracy requirements will be satisfied with successful completion of 1 unit each of English and mathematical methods. This student has a pathway that makes them Queensland Certificate Education eligible. In example 2, we have a student who enrolls in a mix of applied, general and vet subjects, all from the core subject category, and 1 complementary subject over 4 semesters. This student will meet the set amount and the set standard if they achieve a satisfactory or higher result across their different subjects and vocational studies to a total of 20 credits. You can see in this scenario, this student is going to get 32 credits if they do all of that successfully. If the student studies at least 3 of the general, essential, applied and/or the Certificate 3 course all the way through Year 11 and 12, they'll meet the set pattern of 12 credit points. Passing 1 unit of both Essential English and Essential Mathematics will satisfy the literacy and numeracy components. Even though this student's pathway is different to the previous example, and they only have 1 general subject, this student has a pathway that makes them eligible for a QCE. When selecting subjects, we encourage students to select a pathway and a subjects that suit them as a learner. And to explain how the AARA works, our tertiary entrance rank, I invite Mr. Tom Collins, our Head of Careers, to the stage.
Thank you, Ellie. It's a lot of information to get through, and to make it nice and so clear, that's a great job. So what is the AARA? The Australian Tertiary Admissions Rank is a standard pathway to tertiary study for Queensland Year 12s. It's a number between 0 and 99.95, with the 99.95 being the top score. Increments of 0.05, which means that there is 2,000 possible scores within the AARA. The AARA is consistent university entrance score used across the country. How do you get an AARA? To be eligible for an AARA, a student must have satisfactorily completed an English subject, Essential English, General English, or English literature will work for that satisfactory completion. The second component is to complete 5 general subjects or 4 general subjects plus 1 applied subject or vet course at Certificate 3 level or higher. Where a student has satisfactorily completed more than 5 AARA inputs, the best 5 scores are used to calculate their final AARA score. To get a bit of an idea as to where students find themselves with their different subject choices, predominantly about 67% of students from last year's Year 12 group chose 5 general subjects, and their AARA score was made from those 5 subjects. 14% and just over 17% were from students who had 4 general subjects plus either a vet qualification or another subject that was applied, similar to Christian studies or religion and ethics that our Trinity students have. Circling back to our first example from Ellie, this student is eligible for a QCE that we heard, and they have completed 5 general syllabus subjects and 1 applied subject. They have passed an English subject. So bearing all that in mind, this student is going to be eligible for an AARA score. The best 5 subjects will be calculated for their AARA, with the other subjects not being used for that calculation. Example number 2, this student is eligible for a QCE with 32 points, got lots of points there. However, because they do not have the 4 general classes, they do not qualify for an AARA score. So the minimum requirement hasn't been met to meet the requirements for the AARA in this case. To get a bit of an idea as to where students across the state sort of fall with their study programs, it's always interesting to see this one. So this is from the 2022 last year's graduates. Across the state of Queensland, we see that there is almost a 50-50 split between students who are completing an AARA eligible pathway and those students who are not. So the idea of AARA being the only pathway is definitely not holding true when you look across the actual whole state. Now, just because a student doesn't have an AARA pathway, it does not mean that they cannot pursue a university pathway. There are multiple pathways to university, including some universities who take on the Cert 3 or a diploma as direct entry points due to subject results or secondary school university subjects studied. So there's lots and lots of different options that we can work through. To give a bit more of an idea for this one, we're looking at Griffith University specifically. There are alternative pathways to university other than just the AARA. There are some universities that recognise VET subjects as an entry point to some courses. Institutions do vary in their recognition of these different pathways, so it's really important to talk, to communicate, to ask lots of questions so you know where your situation presents. Taking Griffith University as a case in point, a diploma certificate will equate to a rank of 87, and a certificate 3 will equate to a rank of 68, which will open up opportunities for a good half of the Griffith University courses that they have available. If you have any questions about the VET pathways, please see me upstairs and I'm more than happy to help you out. To qualify for a place in any tertiary course, students must satisfy all course prerequisites. If you have a course in mind prior to selecting your subjects, you must check the current prerequisites and ensure that you are meeting these requirements. When a university course refers to assumed or recommended studies, students do not need to have studied that subject, but they are strongly advised to undertake either study at school or a bridging course to acquire the knowledge from that subject, as they may otherwise encounter difficulty from taking that one on. For example, a Bachelor of Engineering at Griffith indicates that one of physics, chemistry, or specialist mathematics is recommended, but you can still get into engineering without any of those classes. After tonight's information session, once again, please come and talk to me about any questions with regards to the AARA, certificate qualifications, or university pathways. I'll now invite our Acting Head of QCAA Assessment and Reporting, Mr. Caleb Mackay, to outline the differences between Year 10 and our Year 11 and 12. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, and good evening, everyone. So there are some differences between Year 10 and Year 11 and 12. So coursework for Year 11 and 12 subjects increases in complexity and the standard of work submitted is higher. QCAA requires that students authenticate their submitted responses, and teachers will facilitate this process by monitoring student progress through conferencing and formal checkpoints. Drafts are an important step when working on assessment tasks. Students will receive individual written feedback from teachers on drafts that are submitted on or before the due date. Students will need to become increasingly independent as they progress through their courses, receiving less teacher feedback in Year 12 compared to that received in Year 11. In Years 11 and 12, a consistent practice of home learning is required. Our academic policy for Year 11 and 12 recommends 2.5 hours of home learning across 5 nights per week, or some variation of this timing that best suits the student. A good home learning practice will involve more than just completing the set homework for each subject. Successful students set aside time to review their notes, revise key concepts and ideas, and to practice new skills learned. we do encourage you to make informed decisions about the subjects you select for your senior course of learning. However, there are some opportunities to make subject changes as they need to occur. Subject changes can occur and students need to be aware of how this can affect their pathway options. Subject changes are usually only at the end of Units 1 or 2, which are studied during Year 11. There are specific requirements for completing a unit from the QCAA that do impact when students can change subjects and whether they are able to receive credit for the unit they are leaving. The timing of units between subjects is also not always neatly aligned, so students who change subjects may have to catch up work that is required after joining a new subject. Students cannot change subjects once they have commenced Unit 3, so their Year 12 work. Students will also need to be careful to meet the set pattern of learning requirements for QCE eligibility. Access arrangements and reasonable adjustments, or AARA, are formalised arrangements to support students' accessibility to the courses that they have selected. There are two types of AARA. One is to support students with known learning difficulties, and one to accommodate for illness and misadventure. For students with known learning difficulties, evidence of the adjustments currently being made, along with a current confidential medical report, are used to support an application that is submitted any time between Term 3 in Year 11 up to the end of Year 12. This kind of AARA application will be facilitated by a Learning Enhancement Department. The process of gaining an extension on assessment items is different in Year 11 and 12. Medical certificates or other documentation is required to support an extension request. Under QCAA requirements, family vacations are not accepted as a reason for an extension on assessment tasks. If a student is absent on the day of an exam, they will need supporting documentation such as a medical certificate. In Year 12, the student will complete a comparable assessment item written by teachers at Trinity and lodged with QCAA. AARAs related to illness and misadventure are managed by the head of QCAA, Assessment and Reporting. If you have any questions regarding the QCAA's requirements regarding AARAs or the requirements around completing assessment, please see our Head of Inclusive Practices, Mrs. Karen Schmidt, or myself in the SLP tonight. I'll now hand back to Head of Teaching and Learning, Ellie Wood, to conclude our presentation.
You thought you got rid of me. So prior to selecting your subjects, you will need to have done some thinking about the desired outcome for your senior learning pathway. This may include doing some research about specific university courses, including their prerequisites, and speaking with our Head of Careers, Mr. Tom Cullen. It's important for students to consider a balance between what they're good at and what they're interested in. Subjects need to be selected for the right reasons. Please do not choose a subject because your friends are doing it. Do not feel pressured by a teacher, and do not choose a subject because you think a teacher will be teaching that subject. Nothing is guaranteed about who teaches what. You should choose that subject because you want to do the subject. Don't choose a subject thinking it will give you a better ATAR. Please take the conversation about scaling off the table. Do not choose a subject because you need to do it even though you hate it. That's something really important. We do not want you in a subject for 2 years hating life. Pick subjects that you enjoy doing, please. If you require any more information about subject selection process or the courses that we offer, please speak with us tonight and access our subject selection page on My Unity, which is accessible via the Year 10 year level page on My Unity. You need to look for this tile to access all of that information. Set plan meetings, I said it before and I'll say it again. Those set plan meetings that we have scheduled for next week help students and families gain clarity about their selected senior learning pathway. It is a time to sit down either online or here on campus with a staff member who specialises in senior learning pathways and to talk through what you want to do as a learner. We need you to book in. We need you to use that parent portal and make a booking for either Wednesday or Thursday evening next week, accessing that via Teams or here at school, 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Again, I know it was a lot of information. We've filmed it so you can watch it again. Please access our experts today about subject choices. Please ask every question that you have. Even if that question isn't tonight, it comes later, please ask that question of the relevant person. It's really important that you ask those questions. I said it in my previous presentation as well, but it's totally okay if you don't know what you want to do once you leave school. Please keep that in mind. Subject selection can be overwhelming. It is okay if you don't know what you want to do. Pick subjects that you are interested in. Our Head of Culture and Operations, Mr. David Clark, will briefly summarise the remaining steps in the subject selection process for you.
I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear that this is the second last slide, okay? So a couple more minutes of your time is all we need left. So it's really, really important that students put their subject selections preferences in order. It's the order that they put their preferences in has an impact on how the lines are created and what subjects we end up running throughout Year 11 and Year 12. So the preference order is really, really important. And what's also really important to understand is that you only make your subject selection once. We don't develop lines and then you pick again. So when you put your subject preferences in sometime next week or up until Monday, Monday the 31st of July, you only get that subject selection one time, okay? So please make an effort to really consider the subjects that you're choosing and to put them in that correct order. Obviously, if there are minor changes later on, then those can be considered, but there is only the one selection process. Also, some important information to understand is that for some subjects, such as practical ones, including hospitality certificates, visual art and trade certificates, there are a maximum number of students that can participate or go into those subjects, and we have to adhere to those guidelines. Finally, as mentioned, the subject selection preferences will open up next Monday, and you'll have about a week to make those selections. You'll have that opportunity with your set plan mentor next Wednesday or Thursday to delve into that space a little bit more. But we ask that you have them completed by the closing on Monday the 31st of July, which closes at midday. For students that don't have a selection in at that point, I will invite them down to student reception or another member of the leadership team, and we will make those selections with your student. Okay, so ideally you go through that process at home, but if need be, we can finalise that after the closing date has passed. Finally, thank you for joining us tonight. We do appreciate that it's a lot of information, and hopefully when you access the recording next week, if there's something that you feel you missed or didn't quite understand, that recording will help you. And if not, obviously the set plan meeting next Wednesday or Thursday is another great opportunity to bring up some of those questions that you might have around the subject selection process. I now invite you to head up to the SLP, where on the ground level there is a bit of a careers expo, and we have people from a variety of external providers and universities to talk about life beyond school, or even potentially around some of those certificate courses you might like to consider for Year 11 and 12. We look forward to working with you and your student as they finalise the last couple of years of high school here at Trinity. So thank you, and if you'd like to make your way up to the SLP, lots more questions to be answered up there.